Welcome to Concilium Historica Imperialis' book club. I'm Decurio Iomhar with Decurio Chamlin, and today we are discussing episode 2 of the Dawn of Fire series titled The Gate of Bones by Andy Clark. If you like what we do, feel free to support us on patreon.com/slash Concilium Historica Imperialis. There you can gain early access to our videos, access bonus content, and have a chance to vote on what projects we do next. You will be helping and supporting us greatly. Thank you very much. Now, without further ado, let's get into it. Chamlin, let's start with you. What were your expectations about the book before you read it, and did it meet those expectations?
Well, so I never go into 40K books with much expectation just because of the whiplash nature of writing quality. So you read the back of this book, and you read more about the Indominus Crusade and the Great Wrath and blah 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 and Ghoulman, and then you see Gathalamor, which you read at the end of the first book. So like, okay, so it's gonna involve Gathalamor. Um, but like, it's not. It doesn't describe in that how focused it is on the planet. It's much more loose about like, oh, well, you're going to learn more about the Adeptus Custodes and Robu talking with the Eldar that comes up because they needed to redo the half Elder that they had from way back when, which is a good retcon, honestly.
Hmm.
Um, and then you get more about like Ancient Evil and Abaddon the Despoiler and stuff like that, but it's not necessarily about that either. So I'm gonna say, like, honestly, the back of the book does not fully envelop what the book is more about than what it isn't. Because the stuff that's on the back of the book is like maybe a chapter or two of ephemeral stuff, and the rest of it is on Gathalamor. So that was my expectation, largely.
Hmm.
And then, I was expecting a bunch of separate storylines because that's what the first book gave us. And this was not a bunch of separate storylines. It was like three concise plot threads, well paced against each other. And like four of the other plot lines from book one did not come up at all.
Hmm.
So, now don't get me wrong, we'll talk about it later, but I think that served it well for what it should have been. Frankly, it's what the first book should have been, but that's not the point. But yeah, it didn't live up to those expectations per se, but I think it was better for not living up to those expectations.
Hmm. Okay. I mean, I realized in book one we were setting up for a larger series, as you alluded to, and thus was focused on establishing the larger narrative. I expected that book two would hopefully begin to build on existing characters' narratives in some meaningful way. Unfortunately, I didn't feel that that happened. Instead, we were gifted with yet more characters and their struggles and asked to care about them as the narrative pushed forward. And do know, I did like many of the characters introduced in this book, but at this point, I'm starting to blur one character into the other for certain things. It'll become more obvious as to the statement as we read on further into the series, but we're focusing on the here and now. But um, as to the expectation, well, obviously, I don't think that it measured up quite like, what I was hoping it would, but at the same time, like you said, it had a different avenue of approach, which was altogether refreshing, frankly, because it really is just 3 basic narratives, which was enjoyable.
So that's interesting because I thought you would have liked this book a lot more. Largely because I figured you would have latched onto Vorgan and Petch's relationship like fucking crack. Um, because of your personal experience and
Yeah,
biography.
yeah.
I don't know. I read that. I'm like, I was rereading. I was like, I feel like Iomhar must have appreciated this more than anything else in this book. But like, well, one, yeah, we knew it was a longer series anyway, just because of the press release saying that it's at least 7 books, and we're book 9 and we're only finally over. So,
Mm.
Games Workshop, what can you do? They can't count. It's like Valve. But what were so delve more for me into what were you hoping it would be?
It's always gonna be a tall order when you have such a long process of, like, content you have to get through and numerous books. And yeah, we're only on book 2, but, honestly, I just wanted more of a focus on existing characters that were introduced in the first book and to just focus on them. And instead, what we got was introduction to yet more characters and yet more conflicts and characteristics, which inherently is not a bad thing. It's just this is already a hot mess by the end of book one. And so when you're going into, trying to tell a story, having yet another book where you establish more characters just kind of makes it a bit more convoluted and unnecessary. Now, it is worth noting, as far as I'm concerned, many of the characters that were introduced were riveting characters. I quite enjoyed a few that we'll mention later, and their stories and just the way that they go about things. It was a unique perspective, to be sure, but ultimately, I feel like whenever a new author comes into the scene, and you're always going to have this when you have a series of different books. I understand that Horse Heresy was a prime example of just like so many different things going one way versus the other, apart from, the consistent plot points. Regardless, um, I don't know, like just too many characters with too many stakes in it, not enough focus on, progressive storytelling through character and interaction.
So what you would have wanted was no new plot threads. But Let me let me phrase that carefully, not in the sense of like nothing happens, but no additional introductions of stuff, but a continuing narrative from each of the separate plot lines that was established previously. So something like Mark, I guess.
Yeah, no, like I get.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just
No,
want to
you're
make sure
fine.
I get
Yeah, go
my
ahead.
in the sense of like Martin, where it's like it becomes the narrative's book is more like it is based in the perspectives, and we don't introduce a bunch of new perspectives. We've got the ones, show us the rest of the story through these perspectives.
I would prefer that. Yes, it really struck me that Andy Clark was trying to put his 2 cents into it, if that makes sense. And whenever you do have authors coming into a project where a previous author had wrote something or a series of characters, and then a new author comes in and then introduced a whole brand new slew of characters, it always gets a little convoluted. Now, it isn't to say that they didn't plan this because I genuinely don't know if they did or not. And if they did, well, party foul on my end, but I don't know. Like,
So from what I understand of Black Library's writing process, which I'm not going to say you know, I don't have any authorial stance on the matter, but I've spoken with people who do have more knowledge of it than others and read at least a little bit about it. At least from what I understand, Dawn of Fire was predicated upon the idea of like Horse Heresy was a hellish jumble of what the fuck is going on because they didn't plan from the beginning to be like X amount. Remember, Horse Heresy was originally a trilogy of books.
yeah,
It was not meant to be more. It was not meant to cover the entire damn thing. It was just going to be like, oh, here's $3, and it's talking about Horus, and it's in 30K, and that's awesome. And everybody was like, it is awesome. Please let us give you money. And then Games Workshop was like, sure, let's ride this train. But they didn't know where the fuck they were going. And then you had the council that crafted what was going into the siege and those 7 books. And damn you, Games Workshop, give me the 2 fucking novellas that you promised. But whatever. Um, Dawn of Fire, as far as I understand it, was predicated to be one, multiple authors, two, not 50 books, and three, what I have come to understand to be so when Gathering Storm happened, it was like 7 tactical books of
yeah,
campaign.
yeah.
From what I from what I came under the understanding, or at least the reflection of, is that each of those books is essentially a reflection of a coverage of Dawn of Fire.
Hmm,
The second book, if I remember right, the second book of Gathering Storm was about the Word Bearers and the Adeptus Sororitas,
indeed.
hence the contents of this. I may be getting the Gathering Storm book wrong. It may be like book 3 or something.
Yeah.
But if I remember right, early on in this, people were like, oh, so book one's, Golden Returning. Book two seems to be about word bearers and Soritis. So book three is going to be about X. Now, I don't think it held up to that because I don't remember how long Gathering Storm was. And I know that we ended at 9 books, which I do believe is longer, but we technically ended at Nexus,
Yeah.
which was a war zone. I mean, we'll get there, in 9 months, but Nexus is the war zone. I'm assuming up the line, but
So far,
that's
yes.
just because there's no ground.
Yeah.
We'll
I'm
soon.
at the time of this recording, I am in the middle of reading the last book in the Dawn of Fire, just because it's so far off, and I can afford to read it again when we get closer to our schedule. But yeah, it does seem like the Nephilim area and like the Nexus is just where it's at right now, converging points. But more about this book.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. To wrap back around, this was more planned.
Hmm.
Clark didn't come in like Ryan Johnson and look at Abrams' work and go like, "No, something different." No, that's a different discussion, and we don't need to get into that 3-hour debate. Um, but I'm sure Clark was probably told like, either Clark volunteered for the idea of a book based on word bearers and the Soritis and continuing off of some stuff in Gathering Storm, or Black Library said, "Hey, we need a book about this," and Clark was like, "I'll."
Hmm.
Usually that's how it goes at Black Library, where an author will go, "I want to write a story about X. May I?" And the Black Library will either be like, "Yeah, sure," or "No, not right now. We're working on it," or "Yes, but don't do blah."
Yeah.
Or Black Library will go, "Hey, we need a book about X. You're the cow author. You got something in there for you?"
Uh-huh.
That's from what I understand, from what I've been told. That's generally how it runs.
Yeah.
Unless it's a series, in which case they sit down a council and say, "Hey, this is what we're going to do."
Well, I hope that it's the former rather than the latter because it makes sense in the context of, the foreshadowing that plays into future novels. Because these characters are reoccurring. They show up in other books.
Oh, really? Morgan shows up?
Morgan
Oh, I
does.
guess he'd be an Iron Kingdom because he
Magna does. So does what's her face? With the I can always forget.
Yang.
Yang.
Stupid.
Yeah.
I know she shows up again. She's like the but no, I just we'll get to her.
We'll get to her. We'll get to her.
Either way, okay. So they show up again. Well, that's good because I was wondering, like, there's people in here. Where I'm like, do they show up again? Because like I feel like they might.
Yeah, no, it does paint a more clear picture after what you said, because if it is just like a handful of authors as opposed to a massive amount of authors in the Horus Heresy,
Well, it's only like
was it 2 or 3 for
from
Dawn of Fire?
Fire. It's
Yeah.
like 5.
Oh, there's 5 of them.
I think
Eh,
there's 9 books. I think it's 5 different authors. I mean, look at Haley writes 2.
Indeed, and I know he wrote the last one.
Okay, then he writes 3.
Regardless, I don't know, like it from the lens of going this book to book. If I didn't understand the concept of foreshadowing, I would almost assume that this was the author trying to insert, you know, their own spin on things, but that obviously is not true because they do have plots later on. Anything else to add on this one?
Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 authors.
Okay.
6 authors, $9. That's a solid spread.
Mm,
It's not. It's different than every single author that Black Library has ever had in their existence for one series.
yeah. Penelope of different taste and preferences and genre to be certain, but um, okay. It's a good segue point, I think. What did you like best about the book? And follow up, what did you like least?
This book has great chaos writing, and
Hmm.
it is hard to write chaos well in the sense where it's not Saturday morning cartoon villainy
Mhm.
or so utterly bad shit where you're like, what the fuck? What? What are we doing here, guys? Like, I get that you're chaos, but like, what's there's got to be some kind of like overall point here, guys.
Yeah,
Now don't get me wrong. I don't like Yang or Yang or
it's Yang.
Yang.
Yeah,
Okay, fine. I don't like Yang and what's his name? Squid Face.
Tenebras.
Tenebris. I always say Tenebris because it reminds me.
It is
It reminds
Tenebras.
me of
Yeah.
Star Wars. So I'm like, okay, it's Tenebris, whatever.
Yes.
City.
Yeah, I'm not really keen on either of them either.
Yeah, it's just like whatever. You guys are like the churning lame ones. But Locke and Carr have a fascinating relationship.
Beautiful.
Great, honestly, it's some of the better chaos writing that I think, honestly, that I think that there is.
Agreed.
In Black
Like wholeheartedly agree.
And then some of the custodians interactions are like top tier.
Oh yeah.
But best, overall best. I legitimately really enjoyed the chaos writing that was between Locke and Carr.
Yeah.
Just because it just felt like these two had factually been around since the heresy, and they viewed their 10,000 years of experience, which it's not inherently 10,000 years because of the war, but whatever.
Yeah.
They viewed the length, the measure of this time differently, but they still respected each other.
Mhm.
They still legitimately did care for one another, and it wasn't just about the gods. And don't get me wrong, for Carr, he's a word bearer. He cares very deeply about the nature of his faith. Locke is an Iron Warrior. He doesn't think that Perturaba was weak for becoming one with the war, but he also just doesn't. He doesn't care about the war in the sense of like he wants to stop. He wants it to be over, so the war is over. He wants to win. He just wants it to be over with.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we learned that Locke was violently ripped apart by Korvax, which was a nice little thing to see. Um, and Carr spent his own time personally going to look for him, and Locke was like, "Tell me, did you come to look for me because you cared, or did you come to look for me because the gods told you?" And like he plays it off, but at the end of the day, you know that he cared deeply about his brother,
Hmm.
enough to ask the gods for help, which is different than the gods telling him, and like they both recognize that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even in the sense of like, oh, these stories are obviously love each other. It wasn't played up that way
No.
or written that way. It was much more in the sense of like, no, this is the platonic level of love of like Grecian heroes between themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking Achilles and his boyfriend. I'm talking like Odysseus and his shipmates. He cares for them. He loves them in the sense that he wants them to be home.
Yeah. Comrade in arms. Like I'd get that. It was brilliant. I really enjoyed the back and forth between Marcus Acolor and Hastius Vicalon. As custodes, they have unique insights into the wider Imperium, and frequently they argue about how best to act in the presence of those they encounter in the book. Acolor was always so patient and compassionate towards the non-custodes characters, while Vicalon could give two shits to whether you lived or died. It was all the same to him, which made me chuckle on several occasions throughout the novel. Could really tell that there was an excellent camaraderie there for those two characters. As for what I liked least, I'm gonna be honest, it was really hard to find something in this book I liked the least. Uh,
Because you didn't like a lot of it,
I don't want to.
or because nothing was worse than the other.
I don't want to misconstrue. I, on the whole, quite enjoyed this novel. It's just I felt like the direction that they went for it could have went somewhere else. Once again, focusing on the characters that existed, but of course, hindsight. We know as we'll read on that these characters do play roles in future novels. Um, it was on point throughout, and I didn't subtract from the enjoyment with needless exposition or unnecessary character banter, which was nice. I suppose as a throwaway gag, I'll lean on my disdain for anything involving the forces of chaos. Even though one of my favorite characters in this book was Torvin Locke. Remember to stay petty, my friends.
In terms of mine, least like it was the connective tissue on the ship, getting the custodies to. I feel like you could have legitimately cut that out and had the custodies like surprise appear and be like, "Yo, what? Where the fuck did these jackasses come from? What the hell?"
I mean, I feel like it would fit, It's
But
like,
honestly, if this entire story had been solely set on Githalamor, and we hadn't heard anything about the fleet, and they just like the custodians just appear, and they're like, yo, Goldman's back. We're here to save this planet because it's important. Let's get to work. And at the very end, Fabian shows up and he's like, I'm here to record what happened here. And you're like, wait, so like, what was everybody else doing? Looking like, and I think you wouldn't necessarily like that from what you mentioned, but like, I feel like it would have been, I feel like it would have rang different. It was like this book is solely on this planet, and then the rest of the galaxy finally touches it again.
Mm.
Now that things are starting to move forward, because we learned that Githyanmer hasn't heard shit about anything.
Yeah, no, they've been in isolation up until, post.
Right.
Yeah, the
Um,
Cicatrix
and
malediction.
so I think if the book had been written under that precept that it was only Githyanmer,
Oh,
and then the custodians just show up, and you're like, what? What?
so like what? To a point, that you're making, like,
Because what gets removed? Three chapters at most, something like
yeah,
that.
I mean, was it necessary? I don't know. Like, because there is a scene where there's a land strike that happens due to that ship, which was crucial in pushing forward into the next part of the narrative. Fair is fair. We could have just as easily gone with your idea and just out of nowhere the ship's like boom, 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 boom,
Right.
boom.
Yeah.
Furthermore, I don't. I think I agree. I don't know if what you're saying is like, let's see it from the moment the Cicatrix or the invasion happened,
Oh no, 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 no,
or
no. I just mean like even if the book started in the exact same space, just removing any of the like connective tissue from the outside and just being like, we're only on the Calamar for this book.
I,
Because when we get to Wolf Time, that's closer to what I'm talking about anyway. Like
yeah,
in the same way, it's almost all in one spot. It's about one thing that's going on. We don't really again, it's like another 3, 4 chapters maybe of like
yeah.
not on what it's focused on. Um, but yeah, I just don't like ships. I just don't. I don't care about them. I just
Well,
don't care.
no, this is good because we're starting to narrow down on his ick, and it's ship battles.
I just don't like Navy stuff. It's just boring.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you look at how they conduct warfare in their space navy, it is boring. It takes hours to do one thing, and
And like
it's
get it, like it's important, and like Battlefield Gothic exists, and blah blah blah. It's just like, but it's boring. It's boring literature.
I there are times where I agree, there are times when I disagree. In this instance, I feel like we could have done away with 3 chapters, but then we wouldn't hit that round even number of 40. And apparently they have a format they're going for with these books.
There were more than 40 chapters in the last book.
There was exactly 40.
540 pages of
I know it felt like more, but there was,
wasted meat.
and that's not including the prologue and epilogue, but I mean,
Mm.
um, so yeah, anything else to add on that one?
No, no. Like I said, I mean the chaos. I think it's some of the better chaos writing that inner chaos writing that you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Which is saying something. I mean, there's plenty of stuff, but like the issue when like you have a chaos only book is that like it just gets to this point where it's like, come on, you're just being extra to be
Yeah, that seems to be the rub of most
extra.
novels. Um, I think the what was it?
Because the only other book that I can think of that had amazing chaos writing is Ravnor. Because Moloch is, without a doubt, probably the best chaos follower
Yeah,
in 40K's existence.
the Night Lord books does a pretty good job. Um, Even though I do not like them as a legion. Their characters were quite riveting.
Where Saboteur comes from or something.
Talos.
Kalos.
But yeah. Who's your favorite character and why?
Let's see here. What's his name? The main custodies.
Um,
I think
okay, so there's Marcus Akalor and
not Marcus. I like Marcus for essentially the same reason that you did. At least until he gets his head misted.
yeah.
I just liked that he was understanding in a sense. And don't get me wrong, I appreciate that Fabian showed up. He's always nice to see. Um, I liked his interactions. I like that he was at least explaining imperial custom to the rest of the custodians, where he's like, "No, I get it. They're insane, but we're just going to move on for a second because we have other stuff to do. So just use it and move."
That's great.
Or he gives up his cloak and she freaks out. And he's like, "It's just a cloak."
Here, holy poncho.
It's like, wow, I'll never be able to, like, oh, this will stay in my family forever.
It's just a cloak.
It's just a cloak.
I,
It's big. It's like 3 times your size, but it's still just a cloak.
I shall bear this as a family heirloom for generations.
Right.
The holy poncho of Marcus.
But in terms of this, like, I just don't care about Yang. She just seems like such a pick me try hard.
Yeah.
They're just like, I didn't like what my life was before, but now the gods have touched me. It's like, all right, I get it. It's sad that you were. It's sad that you were, probably sexually assaulted in your past.
Yeah.
It's sad that you were, objectified. I'm sure, and like, I'm glad that you have power now. But God, word bearers, their cultists are just so lame.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, oh, so you're a preacher, but you're a chaos preacher, so whatever. Uh, I still don't care. But it's
Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
you yourself are boring as a person. And even then, as soon as we get to book 4, it's even more ridiculous. Because it's just like, really?
No, yes, the hand job of doom.
Yeah. I just don't care about Yang. I don't care about her relationship with Tenebris. Tenebris just seems like that jackass that's going to survive until the very end. And he's going to eat.
uh,
I'm assuming he'll just explode and become a chaos spawn
nobody spoiled this for him.
because there's no way they're going to let him do anything important. I'm sure, you know what? I bet Abaddon comes up and just like pokes him. And Tenebris, I've had enough of your shit.
You're about to get my hand.
More or less. I'm kind of expecting that because there's no, like, well, one, you haven't heard of this motherfucker on the board game. He's not in a codex.
Yeah, ain't got no model.
So he's not important enough to be in like the mainline lore.
Yeah.
Like whatever he does, I'm sure is like Abaddon will use this to help the appear, but like he himself, I feel like he's just gonna like get exploded when the gods are like, okay, well, we're done with you being prideful. It's not fun anymore. So pop.
Yeah.
Unless you hadn't killed him, and I'm like, it's
Moving on. Uh, I have two favorites in this book. I feel like this concession of having more than one I think is fair because they're very good. The first is Torvin Locke, which surprised me. You have no idea. Due in large part because of the sheer pettiness he brought to the story and his affiliation with the Iron Warriors, which is my favorite traitor chapter, if I have one. The other, of course, was Marcus Ackler. My boy Marcus was just the best, you know. He was funny, effective, and above all else, interesting, which is always shocking to me when reading about Custodes. It was so refreshing to see a Custodes portrayed in a novel that wasn't a total cock, like Maldover Colquhoun. Uh, what a dick.
I mean, they even say in the series alone that he is without a doubt the biggest asshole in the.
Oh, yeah, wears it like a badge, you know.
See,
I hate Colquhoun so much.
I'm just legitimately surprised that you like Morgan and Cash weren't higher up on this list.
I mean, they come up later.
I figured it like legitimately would have been straight down your alley.
I am happy to surprise you, I guess. Um, hopefully not disappointed.
I mean, I don't care. I'm just surprised you were like, I latched on immediately to this because of my own personal background.
Well,
Life situation.
I never was an officer, so with the general, it was kind of hard to relate. I mean, yeah, I did other stuff that would have been construed as a leadership
I
role,
just
but
meant like the familial feelings.
yeah, I get where you're coming from, given my familial ties and all that, but surprisingly, wasn't the thing I focused on. It wasn't the thing that fixated me.
That's fair.
Um,
Doesn't have to. I was just surprised.
Now, if there was a character I disliked, it probably was a toss-up between Tenebris and Kargathar.
Really?
Yeah,
Really?
both these guys irritated me in the usual way most Chaos characters do.
See,
Well,
I'm sorry.
no, go ahead.
I can stand like I don't mind Carr because he wasn't so what's the word I'm looking for? He didn't proselytize.
Hmm.
He didn't get on his soapbox about it. He was just like, I know what's up. and this is what I believe. But he could have a conversation with Locke and not piss Locke off so much where he's like, just shut.
Yeah, so, like, the way I'm gonna read exactly from my notes here because I felt like it was pretty succinct and on the point.
Right.
Okay, so one was little more than a Saturday morning cartoon villain, that being Tenebris, while the other was just a misguided doofus with delusions and a wee bit of preaching. There wasn't a lot, like you said, but there was little moments where, especially with like Yang, where he would like preach the preach, and you almost got the impression he was wearing a mask. But, like, it's hard to say.
Well, that's because let's see, like that's one thing where it's like, yeah, it seems more real because you know how word bearers are with humans because they don't care. They care about the bigger picture than like
Yeah.
minutiae. So like, of course, he's gonna put on a mask for Yang. But I don't know if he was a doofus. Like the dude walked straight into his oblivion, knowing what was gonna happen.
I think the problem I have with him as a character is precisely because he walked into his own oblivion knowing all the things that he knows. I mean, we know that, the forces of chaos and therefore their worship is ultimately an exercise in futility and self-service and all the other things that benefit the dark gods. Like it's just not a thing you want to do in this setting. Very few people, have apotheosis and get to go, be demon princes and
I mean,
such.
Chard literally had apotheosis. He became a demon.
Yeah,
Word bearers.
I'm not sure that he became a demon prince.
He wasn't a prince, no, but he was certainly a demon. He was at least a higher level of ever chosen.
Well, he also was, I mean, regardless, his soul was, in the sea of torment and just being spiraled into a never
But
ending, such as it is. And the thing about the word bearers, back on the point you made, um, I forget who it was that said it, but they basically were like, "You ever wonder why they use cultists more than any other? It's because they know that when they die, they're going straight to eternal torment. So they do everything in their power to not be the first, second, or last people to fight in any given conflict, which is why they took that backseat role and started, being preachers, like you said. And yeah, some are way more preacher than Kargathar was. I have enough experience reading other books to know that,
the
but
issue with word bearers is that, much like the imperial faith, you have different creeds.
yeah,
There are going to be word bearers that believe. There are going to be word bearers that are protecting themselves.
yeah.
I mean, you think Corferon doesn't believe?
I'm
You think Lorgar doesn't believe?
well, Lorgar definitely believes. He drank that cool Corferon. I really think Corferon's in it for the
Like,
service.
like Lorgar believes so much that he's moved well beyond the four.
Yeah.
So like Corferon, or I feel like he I feel like he believes something because he introduced the whole concept. He started the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean,
Regardless of
I
where or God.
because like Corferon and Erebus are within the same vein of like self-serving assholes
Oh,
that
Erebus is fucking. Erebus is his own fucking level of manic induced madness
well,
because like he believes he's more important than he is.
yeah.
Like he's a punching bag. He's a gag character that doesn't recognize he's a joke.
Yeah.
And but the thing is that like the four keep the joke going because they think it's funny. But it makes Erebus think he's important.
Yeah.
It's not like Lucius where it's like, oh well, Celeste now we'll just revive him because, and, he's useful. Erebus is a joke, and they keep the joke going because it's funny.
That is definitely a perspective I don't hear very often in regards to Erebus, especially, Siege of Terra, Erebus, and the certain things that he gets up to, but we're not going to tackle that. That is a whole other bag of cats, really. But yeah, no, that was interesting. I didn't think of it like that. Hmm.
Because I mean, like you got to look at what happens to the dude.
Yeah.
Like he never gets actually punished. He never gets permanently punished. He gets his face ripped off. That doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I know.
Like nothing that happens to him means anything. It's just a series of like breaks that he runs into, and the four are like, "Yeah, sure, keep him alive." It's like
It's just because then you're trying to think of it. I don't know. I'm thinking in as even as you're
it's
prosing
like
right
thinking
now.
of what's oh god, I can't remember Karn. Like
Yeah.
Karn. He didn't kill him. He Erebus teleported away like a bitch, and nothing happened to him because of it.
Yeah.
He just had his back split apart by a chain axe. But what happens to him? Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing happens to him.
Gets power, walks around like it's, nothing.
Yeah, he walks around like he won, even though everybody around him knows that he's a joke. Everybody in the galaxy knows that Erebus is a joke, besides Erebus, except for the Imperial. Everybody in Chaos knows that Erebus is a joke, besides Erebus.
I absolutely love the just word bearer hate at this table. It's
I like Car.
I you know, I can't get past the delusions and I don't know if I would call it
A
like
Chaos worshiper being delusions.
yeah, don't oh
Weird.
I know, right? In much the same vein that, there are some people that, make fun of emperor bothers, Both of those faiths are just silly. But I suppose one's sillier than the other because, you have empirical evidence time and time again proving that dark gods are only interested in themselves and, getting more
You're
powerful.
also looking at a meta perspective.
Yeah, true. If I was in that setting, I'd be I'd be done. Like there would be no surviving any of that. Probably would fall to either corn
Yeah,
or
so
smash.
how many people does the Emperor sacrifice a day?
Yeah, it was like 10,000 or something like that, right?
I think they upped the number.
Uh,
It's at least a thousand.
huh. No,
Uh,
it's failing.
well, I mean, it's been failing for 30 years.
There's a novel specifically.
I know that. I just mean the whole thing has been falling apart for 30 years.
Yeah,
But I mean, like, the Emperor kills plenty of people.
yeah. Again, like I understand the mirror of that argument. Some people just like chaos because they think it's fun. And you know what? If that's what makes you happy, guys, I'm genuinely happy for you. It's not what it does for me. I don't much care for it. So naturally, uh, two characters that happen to be chaos worshippers are also the ones I dislike the
Yeah, but
most.
those are chaos worship.
Yeah, they are indeed lame.
Tenebris rings that idea of like, I'm more important than I actually am because I think I am more important. It's like, yeah, just because you serve Abaddon doesn't make you special.
I mean, he proves time and time again in future books why he is not to be trifled
Well,
with.
I didn't say he's to be trifled with. I just know that he's not as important as he thinks.
Oh, I get what you're saying. I know.
That's the problem with certain chaos worshippers, is that they don't recognize there's a pecking order.
Yeah,
And they're not that high on the pecking order. You got to look at people like Abaddon
yeah,
and be like, that's who the gods care about. You're powerful, but
yeah,
if they want you snuffed out, you'll be gone.
yeah. You're expendable because new Horus wills you so. All right. So moving on. Did any part of the book evoke a strong emotion in you? And following that, which part and what emotion did it trigger?
Um, uh, I mean, like, I don't go into 40K expecting to have emotions triggered in me. Like, what kind of literature do you read that triggers actual emotional response from you? I mean, seriously, like, do you go into 40K expecting an emotionally written literature piece that makes you like feel ways about things? For me, this is just like information. Like, as long as it's a good story,
Yeah.
that's fine. But a good story is not gonna like move me to tears.
Hmm.
Um, I was a little disappointed that the custodies died,
Hmm.
because we were always given the impression that like they're untouchable.
Yeah.
Like they don't die. And now I haven't read a lot of 30K, so I can't say anything about that. I do know that Omegon killed the custodies because he was bad at his job, took his place in the Primarch novel, which is like whatever, but he's a Primarch. So like if anybody's gonna kill custodies, you'd figure it'd be a Primarch.
A fair hurdle.
But like I was like, oh well, nice dad, great. I actually liked this character. Whatever, I guess.
Black Library.
Um, and then I was also a little bit sad in the way that you were viewing it, where you would have liked to see more threads pulled back. I would have liked to try to see what happened to Narwa, but like I don't think we do. I think that's one that gets permanently dropped.
I am dear again, I'm not even a fourth through the last book of this series, and I am on Narwhal watch right now. I'm just
Right?
looking for any any nugget of Narwa. And You got me saying it. Nora, damn it. Nora. Uh, it's funny your way. I understand you're doing it for the laws.
I'm not doing it for the lulz. It just seems more 40K than Nora with a W.
It hurts the soul to look at it and not want to phonetically say it a different way, but it is indeed Nora. Regardless, I I must have some illusion of Nora having something. I don't care what that something is. I need to have it at the end of this book.
You know what happened to Nora? She left the administratum. She became a joy girl, and she overdosed on drugs.
Why you gotta be that way?
Because this 40K. If you want grimdark, that's what happened.
I mean, sometimes you want grim hope, all right? I hope that she has some manner of peace at whatever's coming her way, whether she's servanized or what have you. Yeah, so not big on the emotion. You didn't have anything come up?
I mean, like again, I don't ever expect an emotional response out of Black Library.
Okay.
Like, let me look at the like four books that I actually keep around that I care about. Um, okay, so let me fall back on like what do I view as like an actual emotional response? Um, like okay, the Thin Man.
Hmm.
Thin Man is like one of the pinnacles of noir fiction.
Yeah.
I love Nick and Nora. Their chemistry couldn't be better. I love the pair of them. I love what they've inspired in the Thrilling Adventure Hour in Beyond Belief. I've got the first book of Stephen King's The Gunslinger, which is the only book I have read in a single sitting or in a single day. I did not put it down until I was done with
Hmm.
it. And that book's just, it's killer. I think the only book that I've ever legitimately had a very strong emotional response out of is Brian Lee O'Malley's Lost at Sea because I read it at a time in my life where I needed to read it,
Hmm.
and it legitimately helped me figure out things that I was feeling.
Yeah.
Um, Black Library has never done that, and I don't expect it to.
You know, the whole thing with, expectation versus preference is exactly that. If you walk into, a black library book thinking that it's not going to do anything for you, well, you kind of already defeated yourself in that aspect. And I'm not shaming or
And
anything.
I'm open to the concept, but like again, I've never read Black Library and been like, my God, this is legitimately touched me.
I fear to tread. That was a good one. That'd be probably the only one that really got me. Mainly because you get to see a side of Sanguinius that you just didn't know about. I wanna say it's Fear to Tread. It's the one where they fight Commander and the Heresy. I might be wrong there, somebody can fact check me in the comments. But, yeah, it's the one where they go, to a place where Horus tricked them into, and they go whole hog against demon forces and didn't even realize they were demons until, like, halfway through. Um, Excellent stuff. Like, you really get to see the human side of, what is basically a demigod. But more to my point, surprisingly, remorse and pettiness came up a lot with me in this book. Specifically, the bit of dialogue between Torvin Locke and Kargathar struck me as sad. Um, Here were two old war buddies coming to the end of their journeys, lamenting on their ends and the futility of the long war. Mind you, Kargathar was very much still drinking the Kool-Aid on the whole idea of purpose for the struggle of it all. Uh, there was this line specifically that Locke said when asked by Kargathar on why he continues to struggle, despite his lack of care for it all. Locke just confessed that he had nothing left to care about, and in lieu of this, he chose to carry on with pure pettiness. You can tell he is tired of the long war and doesn't give a shit about anything at all, least of all himself. It is all just words to him, and that really struck me.
Yeah, I that's it's interesting in the sense of like take that away from it. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Yeah,
Like it feels like it's something, but it's hard to tell whether like you took away this important part of this character, but like you also gave him purpose again. He believes. He believes in the way that he needs to believe.
yeah,
And like there's a bittersweetness to that in a sense of like, man, I like the way the vlog is currently, but like he definitely needed something, and like I guess the gods were like, all right, well, let's give him something. I guess. Um, but yeah, I mean, like that was nice, but I didn't.
Yeah,
I guess for me, I view if I want to say like this book gave me an emotional response, it has to be stronger than like I read it and I'm like, oh, okay, that was a good scene, that was a good word. Um, it has to be like this has legitimately caused a like I can feel the chemical response of an emotion welling rather than my interpretation of like this is well written or like oh this was dumb.
yeah. I mean, 40K novels, love it, hate it. It's mostly just bolter porn, you know. You do go in with a certain expectation of, all right, there's going to be a lot of action followed by some mm, arguably unnecessary dialogue, depending upon the context of the story being told. Um, so yeah, I mean, I get it. I definitely have had more profound experiences in my life reading other works of literature by, August authors from bygone eras, um, to be frank. But even so, you get what you put in, I guess, is what I'm driving at, and yeah, I did enjoy that bit with Locke and Kargathar. I thought it didn't get much better in that novel than
Any
that.
any of the Karn Locke dialogues are the strongest pieces in this book.
Mm.
Arguably, like I said, there's some of the strongest chaos interplay that I think I at least I have read, and I would probably make an argument to say in Black Light.
I was about to say the only other time that I've ever seen such excellent chemistry and chaos characters was probably Karn and uh, Argyle Tall. Yeah, Argyle Tall. Thank you. I was struggling there for a second. They had such amazing chemistry in those books. The little snippets that you get of them, you really do get the impression that they're tight. They're battle brothers through and
Just
through.
fuck that up too.
He did.
There you go.
And
See,
that's the reason why
fucking talking about.
that's why Erebus got his back broken by
Yeah, for
Karn.
about 5 seconds.
Listen, if there's anything I learned from the character of Erebus, it's that a combination of self-service, pettiness, and will to dominate all that you see is like everything the dark gods drink up. They love that shit.
Yeah, but nobody likes Starscream as a bit.
Starscream is a bitch. This is known, so too is Erebus, and yet both of them always find themselves in positions of power beyond their own understanding or desire. In some
I
cases,
just wish Erebus would have something permanently happen to him.
I
Something else.
I'm holding. I would say I'm holding out for hope during the Scouring series that he's going to get his, but we as readers already know that he survives all the way to 40K's time.
Like we know what he's up to right now.
Exactly, and it hurts my soul so much to know that, because nothing would please me more than seeing Erebus die a very painful, tormenting death.
The most that I feel like we could ever hope is that somebody throws Erebus down the well of turn,
Mm,
and that'll at least be funny.
it would be funny. I could get a chuckle, Harlequin laugh.
Somebody just like if somebody puts him above it, and like they throw a fucking pie at the target, and just throw
Got it. Laughing Harlequin. La 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 la
something.
la 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 la.
Something.
uh, so what themes stood out to you in this book? And how well do you think the author explored these themes?
This book, so like I was talking about earlier with the Gathering Storm series, I think it's called like War of Words, or
Hmm.
maybe it was Words. I don't remember. Either way, it's the word bearer and the sister. This book is about the nature of faith.
Yeah.
Um, it from a top level view is an exploration of the neutral nature of faith expressed both imperially and chaotically. Um, do I think it says anything new on the matter that we've not seen before? Like if you're initiated into the setting, does it say anything new? No.
No.
If you're uninitiated in the setting, if this is the second Black Library book you've ever read, it gives you a good breath of like the conceits of chaos is not always batshit insane, and the Imperium is not the good guys. Those of extreme faith are incredibly dangerous for a reason. I mean, like, we've got the torture scene, where even Morgan was like, I gotta go throw up a little in my mouth because this is a lot. But then he's like,
Yeah.
no, but I have to stay here. It is my duty to stay here and watch them do this. And the Sororitas are known to be some of the most hardcore torturers in the setting. There's an Inferno story. I think it's Inferno, where the Sororitas get this heretic and throw her into what amounts to Sarlacc acid
Yeah.
and just leave her there
Groovy.
because they can, because that's the punishment that they decided to spend. But then you have at the end of the book where they get these like 7-year-old girls that are like, yeah, we're taking these because they're clean enough that we can use them. And they've got like dousing people in promethium and dancing around and lighting them up with flamers, and like, you're just like, these bitches are
Oh,
fucking nuts. And even all the custodians are like, are we just cool with this? And they're just like, yeah, we gotta be all right. Just leave it.
Akralor with the win and all the chill. My goodness. Yeah.
But yeah, this book is about faith. Um, if if you know a lot about 40K and the nature of faith, even like philosophically, if you've explored the nature of what we recognize as faith, it's not really saying anything new. But if you haven't, I think it's a good exploration of the nature of the dual-sided faith in 40K, and obviously whatever they're going to turn, however they're weaponizing it, as the even the current meta seems to be shifting into the nature of like weaponizing humanity's faith
Mhm.
in more and more powerful entities, and chaos desperately trying to weaponize more and more Noctilit through refocusing chaos energy straight rather than repelling.
Yeah. That does get touched up in, is worth noting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh. I think resilience is a theme in this book too. Uh, you had so many characters refusing to give up despite the odds arrayed against them, and it showed it in many ways. Some were grizzled veterans like Luther Fjorgen and Magda Kesh, who fought on despite for most of the book they knew they were going to die. Death was a certainty. And others like Torvin Locke and Theodore Yang, it was the resilience to keep alive against ever growing odds as the news slowly grew tighter around their necks.
See, here's the thing about Yang. I don't think she's doing this out of resilience. She's
Hmm.
doing it out of abject fear.
Yeah.
She is afraid. She was annoyed with her life before. I don't think she was afraid. She survived that long, but like at this point, obviously the relationship develops.
Mhm.
But like if we're looking at Tenebris, she's terrified of the dude. She's terrified of like being literally eaten by this illithid. Because it's like a squid face. We eventually learn. So like,
Yeah.
he's got like tentacles.
He's
He's like an illithid. That's how I imagine him. Unless we eventually get a more clear description. I just imagine him as an illithid essentially. Um, but like she's horrified of the power that this dude wields, and also the fact that like she doesn't want to get literally eaten by this guy. But her former master is like, hey, you got to go hang out with him because it's more important to the overall situation.
I only say resilient for her character because there wasn't a single time where she second guessed her worship of the dark gods. In that regard, her faith was strong.
I mean, yeah, she kept her faith. That's
And
fair.
yeah, she fears, but what human amidst giants would, not? That transhuman dread for one thing, and there was always that weird opaque fear she had for the unknown, which again is just like normal human shit.
I mean, I don't know. You get Erebus arrested Primarchs and he ain't scared shit.
Yeah, well, Erebus is a unique fool in that, he's got the four things on his side, I guess. But like with Yang, you can tell there's resilience there. Probably because of all the shit that went down before,
You
that.
can tell that this girl had a life before, and that life was not exactly the best.
Yeah.
Not even in the sense of like, oh, she was a pilgrim, but like she has been through some stuff that has not been kind to her. That has put her into a position where like one, she was okay with turning to chaos, and two, she turned to chaos hard enough for her to become.
Yeah.
Because she's. I don't think they mentioned whether she's nascent or nascent. I don't think she is. I think she's just straight sorcery. Um, because I don't think she has an innate gift. She just has she knows how to wield sorcery. She's gifted power rather than like as a
Yeah, no, it's something that she eventually learns with, yeah,
yeah.
Tenebrae.
So like she didn't have to deal with that, but it's just that first line that she says of just like the beauty that she had got her different attention. That was more, like different. I don't remember the exact phrase. It was like more unwanted in a way than she has now.
Indeed. You know, she's definitely in it for the power. That's clear as crystal. It's just an example of resilience. Yeah, and I don't know. I would still say that was like a weak resilience for her, but again, in defying all the things that happened to her, she still managed to get off that world and carry on with her story in future books, which in of itself is its own
She's
sort of
still on.
resilience.
How long does this bitch last?
Uh the last time I read about her is book 8. And yeah, she's a reoccurring person that
I
shows
get
up.
that she's recurring, but get
Yeah, she has a thing where it feels like they're leaving her to go do her thing, and she'll be in something else, and then whatever series comes next. But I'm the same thing with Magda, though. Both of them have things that happen to them that makes it so that
Kesha's actually.
Kesh is interesting.
Is she at least not irrevocably broken?
Oh no, she rises.
Okay, good.
She has
That would have been
she
frustrating.
has her own version of apotheosis. It can be said.
It's just like Yami's just like, "Man, you're such a tryhard.
God,
It's tiring."
I love Kesh. She rises to the challenge and she proves that, she's a bad bitch and that's awesome.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. Wait. Sorry. We're still talking about five, right? We're not on the six.
Uh,
We're
you
still
know,
talking about character.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Then you got anything else to add? Are we good there?
No, not really.
Okay, now for the hard question. If you could give this book a different title, what would it be?
Booker's gift.
Hmm.
That has more to do with it than Gate of Bones.
Hmm.
Much in the same way of where like you would essentially flip the title of the first book. Um, like Gate of Bones, yes, there are bones on Cathalamore. There is a gate they mention as it is important because it's the gate to the Void Port um, or the Macro Cathedral, whatever. There's a gate there and it's important, but eh, like it's there. It's not that important. I would say more so. I would legit be like, no, just call it like the gift or Bucharest gift or however you say his name. I always say
Lucaris.
Bucharest. Uh, like Bucharest gift because that's like that is the thing that literally goes from this book and it's going into the next book. I think it's more it's more useful for it to be like, well, one, you see that title, you can be like, well, what is a Bucharest and what is this gift? And you eventually get to be like, oh, because it's like a fulcrum piece
Mhm.
to shit that goes on later. And I think it comes up like it's at least 2 books in, 2 books past this, and it's still going strong. I don't know if they like.
There's some wraparound that
I
goes on for
know.
several books in this one. Yeah.
Like that, I would have legitimately titled this around that because it's way more important to the word.
The best I could come up with was Gathalamore Rises.
That's all right. I'm not gonna.
No, believe me, I want to have you and the listeners know I am failing to recall at any point in time, other than what you just explained to me, where a gate of bones was mentioned in this book.
Well, the plants made it.
And like I just couldn't figure out, wrap my little head around like a decent enough title to like do the trick. And it just it infuriated me because I sat at this for like more time than anybody should at like one question for a book club, just trying to figure out with the name. And I couldn't come up with anything decent. And I didn't even write down all the crap ideas that I had along the way, which there were at least a dozen.
You could almost swing into Dark Knight Rises because there were knights in the book.
I, I I know it's just like Gathalamore is mentioned more than the book of the Gate of
Well,
Bones,
yeah, that's true.
and they rise and repel the chaos forces, and they almost do it single-handedly, apart from custodial, intervention.
I was gonna say the Casades kind
And that shit was inspiring, and so I was like, Gathalamore rises, whatever. I'm lame. Moving on.
of. I do think that that title would definitely need more
Yeah, I also thought that.
work. Yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna say mine's better necessarily. I do think that it's more important to the overall
Yeah,
it's series. It's more important to the series that this thing exists.
yeah. Well, hey,
At least in my
I
personal.
liked yours better.
Okay. I didn't want to say it was better.
It's fine. It's fine. I done goofed. I did all Zangief on this one, man. Just
No, it's fine. Like it's also like incredibly conceited to be
mhm,
like, I'll come up with a better title for this book. Like,
yeah,
who the fuck are we?
yeah, yeah.
Like we don't know anything about titling books. I do think that it's more important to the word.
I do like concise and to the point sort of titles as well. That's why I named my short story "Prodigal Son" as an example because it was to the point and it gets mentioned once. So mm, that wasn't a plug. I was just
It
making an
was
observation.
12,000% a plug.
All right, you got me. Hey guys, make sure you check out my short story. I need attention.
Why can't you explore your own stuff?
I can
See,
and did.
see, that's lame.
I never said I wasn't
All
lying.
right, question 7 before we get bogged down in this.
Uh, how did the book compare to others you've read by the same author or in the same genre?
All right, mine's short because I've literally never read another Andy Clark book.
Mm,
I looked at his Black Library page. I've never read another book unless he's written something in Inferno that I don't recall.
yeah.
In the same vein, I read the first book of Dawn of Fire. I think it's so. I think this is the fair point to be like. I think this is a better book than book one of Dawn of Fire.
Mm.
I just think it's more focused. It gets its point across more quickly. It does it in less amount of time. Um, it feels like it did more with less pages. Um, and I just, I'm not saying that Clark's a better writer than Haley. Obviously, they're both good. I just don't necessarily think the first book is good. If if book one of Dawn of Fire had this kind of like, I guess the word would be conciseness. Although it's not a short book, it's like 440 pages.
It's shorter than the first one.
It's 100 pages shorter than the first one. It just feels like it does more with less.
Yeah.
If book one did that, like what I was saying, I wish the book one was more focused on like the initial siege, the second siege of Terra, and then like the aftermath of that. I feel like if we had a book like this, but for that, it would have been a much better introduction. Now I know that wouldn't necessarily been the best because it's not what they wanted to do. I just think that this is better than the first book.
Hmm.
Um, I don't necessarily think there's a lot to compare it with per se, or at least that I've read. But also, like, it's hard to be like, well, this is the second book in a series, and blah blah blah. I guess there's probably some like Gaunt's novels to compare with it, though. They're only on one planet for any given amount of time for a long time. Um, I guess it's probably close to like Necropolis,
Yeah.
but like it's hard to beat Abnett when he's on his prime of like Necropolis or the Garon
Ah, beauty.
or Jago.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you can't beat Abnett when he's at peak.
Have some good shit right there.
Now, don't get me wrong, he's had some shit books in that series,
Yeah.
or at least boring books in that series. I don't want to say shit, but I think this. If you were going to compare it to Gaunt's Ghost, This would be on the better side of
Yeah.
things in terms of like Gaunt's Ghost.
Hmm. You know, Andy Clark is not an author I know too much about.
He's not
Um,
written that much. I looked at the page and it's like 10 or like something like I don't think it's more than 12 or 14 entries on a page.
yeah, not a single one of those entries, by the way, because I also looked up at the list, immediately came to mind, like right under the
I
radar.
think he's pretty new.
I think he is too. It's obvious too that 40K really isn't his usual haunt. As I saw more AOS novels on that list, in name on them rather than a list for 40K. But despite all that, I would say he did a great job.
It's a solid book.
It
That's the thing
is.
is that it is a legitimately it's a tight piece of fiction. It feels like you do a lot in the amount of time that you're there, which you're there for what 440 pages is not a light read.
Yeah, no, no, it's not. Um, compared to other books too, along these lines, he seemed to have a good grasp of the content and universe, which was always, chef's kiss. Um,
Well, when you read like the people talking about strategy, it actually felt like it wasn't just bullshit.
yeah, like he
Now, I don't know a lot about military, but I do know when I can read something and be like, this sounds stupid.
yeah, the general time and time again, Dvorkin, he was like, "This is dumb, and here's the reason why."
I think that D is silent. I think it's just Morgan.
It's Dvorkin.
It's Dvorkin. That's so.
Well,
I think that D is silent, right? Because they're like Russian.
well, this is where it gets weird because when I was listening to it in the audio version, it wasn't consistent. Like, there'd be a real silent D sometimes, and then other times it'd just be Vorgan or Dvorgan, like that. Um, Regardless of how his name was said, that character time and time again, like, stood up and was like, "Hey, this is dumb, and here's the 6 reasons why." He even stood up to a custodian.
Yeah, that was a good scene where he's like, it, it's where it's just like, I need you to do this. I know what I'm asking you to do. I
Yeah.
recognize who I am, and I'm asking you to do it, but I need you to do it because otherwise, it feels like you're just treating us like we're throwaway.
What an unsung hero he
And then
was.
he's like, "So you're not gonna do it?" He's like, "No, I'm going to do it. I'm just telling you how I feel about it, sir."
Yeah, no.
He just basically he speaks freely without asking permission, and he's like, "So I'm gonna go do what you asked me to do. I just needed you to know how I felt about it before."
Yeah, no, that took some balls too. It just so happens that he got the right custodian there at the right moment.
Culkin would have.
Cogan would have fucking
He would
just
have bisected.
yeah,
Not a sentence into that.
yeah, yeah. As it
Like,
is,
I don't have time for
that
this.
dude is such a dick. He 100% would have
I
bisected
mean,
me.
inherently been wrong. We're just like, I don't have time to hear you when I'm trying to do a thing for you.
It's so mental too because those two characters, Dvorgan and Copeland, they do meet. They have conversations with each
I'm
other,
sure that goes.
and you, yeah. Oh my god, it's great.
It's like,
But
you're gonna treat us like we're nothing. You are nothing in the Imperium's eyes, so I'm gonna treat you how I feel.
yeah.
So you talk to the Emperor? Because I talked to the Emperor.
Cool. Here's a soda. I mean, Morgan gives no fucks at it.
Right.
It's great.
I'm sure Morgan is just like, I'm too tired to care about your godliness, sir. So,
Yeah, no, I'm here to do the Emperor's piece, and I'm all out of peace. I did just some stupid, throwaway action line. Forgan all the time. Love that guy. What an unsung hero again. But wrapping back around to the question, I really don't have any complaints on this end. I thought this book was solid. Given the fact that he has so little experience, I thought Andy Clark like just hit a home run right away.
oh yeah, it's a strong word.
Yeah.
I mean, like even I've only read through Throne of Light. I still think it's out of the four, I'd say that this is probably the highest because I don't remember Throne of Light being terrifically amazing. Not in a bad way. I just don't remember it being as strong as he.
It's not the one that I remember when I go through, my memories.
And then Wolf Time. I'm not gonna say Wolf Time's the worst. I haven't read all nine, but Jesus Christ, it makes you understand why people don't like Space Wolf.
It's a tough read, I'll be honest with you, but it will
It has
scrap.
it has one of the best teardowns that you get to read
Oh, yeah.
in
It definitely scratches that itch too, that penultimate question of how they would view Primaris Space Marines,
there.
because that teardown was, like, pretty succinct, you know? It's some good stuff, and Grimnar and all the other side
Well,
characters.
we're gonna get ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, out of the four that I've read, I think this is still the strongest.
I'm of the first 4, I am at this time inclined to agree with you, yes. I do think it is the strongest. Um, but moving on, were there any quotes or passages that particularly resonated with you, and if so, why?
Let me see here. I remember the Cassettis arrive, blah blah blah. The sisters wet themselves. They get back to the cathedral, and Morgan's there. I'm gonna call him Morgan because I think having a D without an accent there is nonsense.
That's fair.
Um, and to fall back on an earlier point, like I don't care about the Imperial Guard regiments. I just generally don't. I get that they're the flavor and like each one's special and blah blah blah. I don't really care about Mordians. I guess they're Russian. I guess that's the vibe they're going for.
No.
Oh, what are they supposed to be?
Uh, okay, so they're supposed to be, and again, viewers, please correct me if I'm wrong. It's just my impression. But militarily, they remind me of like the Royal Guard of the Royal Marines of like Britain. So their whole thing is like prim and proper, stiff upper lip, get it done, attack in volleys, kind of.
See, that's I only get that from like the Australian blue that Gaunt's goes.
Well, yeah, but they're a secondary one. If you're talking about like, again,
Right.
splitting hairs here. If we're talking prime regiments. This one's supposed to represent like British Empire's army circa 1889 through like
I don't. I
1900s.
guess Morgan the Street sounds like a Russian kind of thing.
It
So does
does.
Magda.
It does,
So
but
that's why I think Russia.
they didn't have Russian accents in the audio. But again, like looking at what they like, is there a picture of it in the front? I don't remember. I think there is top left. Yep. So it's a picture of Oregon. So very much like Royal Marine, just maybe not the cap, but the entire outfit.
That screams Russian. I'm just saying. I think they're Russian. Either way, um, he's there, and what's his face is there, Marcus.
Yeah.
Um, and he's about to take off his helmet, and he's like, "Am I gonna go blind?"
Yeah.
Like, 'cause we're not supposed to look at them, right? Like, aren't they? Don't they have the visage of God essentially? Like, because of how beautiful they're supposed to be. Like that kind of stuff, where we hear about like how people view what amounts to demigods, what they see, what they understand as demigods. Because like, I don't think that necessarily a lot of citizens can wrap their heads around the concept of a Primarch
Yeah.
before they see one. But a custodians, people know about custodians. They've heard about custodians. The beings of gold and blah blah blah, that kind of thing. It's mythos to understand like a Primarch, but custodians is more touchable, literally.
Yeah.
Um, I like that bit. Let's see here. And then, like you mentioned earlier, I like Carr and Locke's discussions. I,
Yeah.
I liked their last discussion a lot.
Yeah. Every single one of them was a banger.
Right.
There wasn't a single moment where those two weren't talking to each other that I didn't feel like like this is the novel right here. This is making the bacon, so to say. Um, Good stuff. But yeah. So I mentioned earlier about the line with Locke and about the lack of care of it all anymore. Really, it resonated with me. No particular reason why either. I just thought it was a good introspection from an unlikely character, which is always great to see this nuanced and the least likely of characters because it's not expected, and that's always a plus in my book. Makes you think more about the character, frankly. Uh, which just it upsets me because it came from a chaos character. So, but sometimes that little nugget of gold comes in, it's unlikely of dirt. Now, would you recommend this book to others?
Um, I mean, if you're reading the series, obviously you got to read book two.
Mhm.
If you're new to 40K, I don't see why you couldn't start with this. Honestly, if you haven't read this series, I'd almost start with this book before I go back and read book one.
Hmm.
Um, I think the fact that it's a concise, more localized story does a better benefit as an introduction point. Because, like, think about you got to think about like the first books in the Sola series. You know, First and Only.
Yeah.
That's a concise book. It's about a guard regiment doing a thing against heretics. Um, yeah, because First and Only doesn't have the chaos robots, right?
No, it does.
Oh, well, I mean, either way, it's heretics that turns into chaos, and heretics always turn into chaos. Xenos always turn into chaos. But you can't have a Xenos Inquisitor do an investigation without magically turning into demons, or whatever dumbass reason. Um, but like, yeah, I think that you could start on this book, go back and read book one, and then go forward. I wouldn't ever say like skip book one. That'd be nonsensical. If you're gonna read a series, read the series.
Yeah.
You have to read it all. But I think you could start here. I think if you were new to 40K and for some reason you only had access to Gate of Bones, I don't think you would be disserviced because you get introduced loosely to seven, seven or eight factions, which is not nearly the amount that you get introduced to in book one. It's a lot more manageable to be like, did I like the Sorites? Did I like the Mordians? What are these other guard regiments that they have? I like the Custodes. They're pretty cool. Could go look into those. Chaos Marines, Iron Warriors, Word Bearers. That's a lot easier to be like, I'm interested in this character. What faction are they a part of? Let me go read some more of that. Rather than like, here's 80 characters where we don't really delve too deep on their inner factions.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's a hard pill to swallow.
it is. But yeah, I think this is a better introduction. I would, it's hard for me to be like, I'd give somebody the second book of a series to introduce them to something because like that's weird. I think if you're in 40K and you're like, should I pick up Dawn of Fire? I'd start with book two, go back to book one, and then go forward. Uh,
Yeah, I can't think of anything to add on my side because I agree with you wholeheartedly. I would recommend this book, obviously, that goes with asking the question. It was just fun, you know?
it's a good book.
It was a good book. It was fun. It didn't really take much time for me to go through and divulge it, which was always a plus.
It had Imperial Grimdark, but it wasn't fucking Noble Sacrifice. Like Morgan was ready to do it.
Yeah,
He's like, yeah, I will go do what you asked me to do. I'm just asking you to not make it worthless.
yeah.
Um, and
Make my
that's fine.
yeah, make my men's death have meaning.
Right, yeah. Which is different than being like, I will gladly throw my life away for you, regardless of what you're asking me to do, because you asked me to do it.
So Xeon.
Jesus. Um, and like you have the Imperial batch insanity of Sorites when they go full tilt on stuff. And
Yeah.
you're just like, that went more hardcore than the majority of the stupid chaos shit that happened in the first part.
Boy, howdy, though. Towards the end, though, it was just like, let's throw ourselves at this problem and hope for the best.
And then like, the princess
Yeah,
essentially being like, fuck this. I'm going to kill this bastard. And she fucking fails.
I know.
Right?
We'll get.
Like,
Hold on. We'll get to that. We'll get.
why when are we gonna get to it?
I was gonna. Okay. Yeah. No. Fine. Carry on. Carry on.
Another thing. Like, it's good in the sense of like, it's not it's weird in the sense of like, this is a book where neither side wins. Like they both got fair victory in the sense of like Chaos kept the ring. They didn't get to fire it at the Primarch. The Imperials took back the planet. They lost to Custodes. They didn't stop Chaos from taking the ring. Like it's good in the sense of like nobody full outright won.
Yeah.
The Imperium, won the day essentially. They beat Chaos back. Um, Chaos went slinking off, but it was good in the sense of like we had Imperial losses. We technically had Chaos losses. Although I would argue more important Imperial losses. They lost to Custodes and they lost a princess of the Night House. It's probably more important than Car. I'm just saying. Don't get me wrong, Core Pharaon was like, you're pretty cool. Here's some power.
Yeah. It was. Princess Jessavane's death was a catalyst for a future
I'm
story.
sure it is. Yeah,
One
it's
hundred
it's,
percent.
it's Iron Kingdom.
Yeah.
But like, it, but like, who important on Chaos side died? Damn Car.
Yeah.
Other than that, it was just like a bunch of throwaway nobodies who didn't mean anything.
Yeah. Definitely was a Pyrrhic victory. That
Yeah,
it's.
both sides lost pieces. Neither side won outright. Um, Whereas in book one, it felt much more like, yeah, the Imperium's on the rise. Not, don't get me wrong, there's setbacks and everything, but like nothing bad really happened except the Fleet Four, but we know Fleet Four is cursed.
Yeah, this book did a very good job of saying, like, "This is just the beginning. Like, we're coming. Gilliman is coming, and he has, scores to settle."
Right.
And, that impression, very obvious. The fact that any of these characters had no idea what was going on in the outer galaxy until the Custodes came, and he's like, "Hey, by the way, Primarch's up and about." They're like, "Get out of town."
Primarch's back, Crusades on, you're a stopping point, so we
So,
gotta win.
"We're gonna win this world for the Imperium. Let's go, bro." Flexes.
And then even then at the end, it's just like, yeah, we're gonna go. I'm gonna go with the ninth princess's corpse. I'm not gonna explain to them that it's more important because they're a good stop point, but it's at least gonna be symbolically useful.
I mean, well, Fabian for the win, being the best person in the entire story.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say if Fabian it does, it's important because one, he learns that he does occasionally need to lie
Mhm.
um, to the people that he's getting this information from. He's not lying about the information. He's just not gonna tell them as much truth as they need to hear, which is different. Because usually Batman would just be like, this is the truth of the situation. You're just dumb." And he has picked up in the meantime to be like, "Sure, you can believe that, but I also need to do my job because I don't want the Primarch to be upset with me. So let's just do what I asked you to do."
Yeah, Vorgan and them, their exchange was interesting. I like that Vorgan just had no time for Fabian, and Fabian had all the time in the world and needed it.
Morgan just wants to be a sad boy.
He has every right to be sad. He basically spent what was close to like 6 to 8 months watching his entire regiment get whittled down to people he can know by name. And he is a general, and that's always impressive when they know your name, even if you're just some basic private in the field. But I mean, there was a resonance there. And I agree with you. Vorgan very much likes to self-loathe. So
He's just upset that he didn't cream pie his wife because he thought it was selfish. I'm just saying, he's a sad boy over very little.
I will concede the point from our well, I mean, from modern sensibilities, yeah, I can't relate to that shit because I didn't have that problem.
I'm just saying, like, it's just like, and I get it, the conflict, like, and I used a bit of that mental process where it's just like, what right do I have to bring a child in this fucking hellhole that we call a galaxy? And that's fair, but like, he's been sad about it for like 20 years.
Yeah, some people, they hold on to those crosses,
And the
man.
psoriasis was like, you gotta chill. You're fine. Like the psoriasis telling you you're okay. So just
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he did an amazing job. He's probably one of the linchpin characters that was responsible for Gathalmor actually having victory in the end.
oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, so how did this book make you feel overall? Did it change any perspectives on the topic?
No. There's nothing here's the thing, is that again, if you've read Gathering Storm, you know a decent chunk of like the idea of what's going on in the galaxy. Did I know about Gathalmor? No, I didn't know about this proper noun. Did I know Bucharest's gift? No. Did not know Bucharest's gift. And I just here's the thing, I don't care about like the meta plot involving Noctilith. I just fucking don't.
Yeah.
It's just like yeah, it's so important. I was like, cool, but like I still don't care because I don't like what Ward did with Necrons. And it all relates back to that.
Yeah. For the most part, I felt satisfied with this book. Has it changed my perspective? Yeah, but only in the insights of the Adeptus Custodes. Getting to see them talk to normal people was refreshing. They very obviously hate all the attention and weird mysticism surrounding them. And frankly, it adds to their charm how they go about reacting to it all, depending upon the Custodes, mind you.
See, I wonder if Watchers of the Throne is different in that regard.
I, yeah,
I mean, they're collecting it soon, so I don't know. I would assume so because it's got like an that's the novel series that involves the Dark Eldar getting loose.
that is correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would assume that we have custodians interacting with people and being like, "What?"
See, again, The problem I have with Custodes as characters in any of these novels, this one being an exception, of course, is they always typecast Custodes. So, like in those novels you just mentioned, almost every single one of them were like characterless. They just didn't have meaningful characteristics that connected the audience.
Well, I mean, they're also not supposed to.
I mean, yeah, heresy era, sure. You got to remember that 10,000 years have come and gone since the original
Yeah,
process.
but every Custodes is not 10,000 years old.
I understand. That's why what I'm trying to explain to you is that in the span of 10,000 years, the process of making them probably altered in some capacity because there are more characteristics in the 40K Custodes than there are in the 30K.
Well, I think it's more under the sense of like, I think honestly, the creation process of the Custodes is one of the few processes that is not changed in 40K. But I would argue that Custodes themselves, given that they've been doing nothing but sitting around introspecting, the ones that have been around forever have developed deeper personality, and the ones that are newer are just, whatever.
Also, another point to add to the difference, in Heresy era, there is more than one time where it is alluded to that the Emperor had like a strong psychic link with all of the Custodes at every single time, apart from, great distances, as was obvious in the first Heretic. But he had control of them. There was parts in the siege where they just couldn't like break down mentally like everybody else was because the emperor was holding them up like, the baby boy at the tip of a balcony.
Yeah, I mean, when you have single-handedly crafted every one of their cells to be the thing you want them to be, yeah.
Well, yes, they were engineered to, subsume to anything he says, but there was more than that. There was like a weird psychic block, ward, whatever you want to call it. But that's not the case in 40K.
Well, that's not inherently true because they still talk about feeling the Emperor's presence. I mean, the what's his name? Bakrin? What's
Baccalore.
Bagalore? Again, you got the thing is that when you just vomit letters onto a page,
Not everybody can speak Latin. It's fine.
when Bagalore's talking to Marcus, and he's like, "You've been in the Emperor's presence." It's like when Loki and Bartleby
Yeah,
are talking, they're like, "You have been in the presence of the Almighty God. You know for a fact that He is real and crafted the universe and you. And yes, you still do this shit."
yeah,
Or that's the kind of vibe that you get from like some of these conversations where it's like, you have been in the presence of the Emperor. You know he single-handedly crafted every one of your cells. And yet still you act like this around these nutjob barbarians.
yeah. I don't know. Like, I think that there might be something to my theory about the disconnect of the psychic phenomenon of I don't know. Maybe it was stronger back in the
I
heresy,
mean, surely.
and now because it's weaker, they're starting to show and exhibit like more characteristics. Or maybe I'm just reading too much into it, and this is all
I wouldn't say
nonsense.
it's necessarily weaker. It's just like the Emperor again. We fall into this conceit of like shards of consciousness, in the
Yeah,
sense of like there's no one focal point anymore. But like they're also right next to the Astronomicon essentially all the fucking time. So like they know the Emperor's presence. They have a group of custodians that they swap out all the time to be like, well, you're in the palace room because they're the only ones that can stand it.
yeah. Okay. So, were there any plot twists that surprised you? And if so, how did they affect your understanding of the story?
I mean, no, like I was surprised they killed the Custodes. That doesn't change my understanding of the story. I don't think it changed anything. You know, I think a ring being a nuclear weapon of radioactive faith energy is whatever. Because again, they don't care about Noctilith. And I knew that Noctilith could factor, could re, could amplify warp as well as nullify it because of all the way back in Eisenhower
Yeah,
when they're talking about the pillars and what Quixos was doing.
yeah,
You know, but if you've read 40, if you've been in the setting for decades, you know the pieces that are being mentioned.
hmm
You see the retcons when they're there. I've not read since the first Rogue Trader book, but I've been around since fourth edition. I know stuff that's there. Um, so I can see a retcon. I can see a callback to stuff that we should know if you've been around.
Yeah.
So no, I don't really think there was a large plot twist. The word bearer becoming partial demon. Uh, Locke, the character movement of Locke finding something worth fighting for is not a surprising one. I don't know if I'm gonna like it. I'm assuming he probably shows back up. Uh, really, they're bringing him back up?
I have, again, haven't finished the final novel yet, but as of this point, he has not.
Okay.
Um,
See, because you feel like he's gonna come back up almost guaranteed, but whatever.
Now, maybe I'm mistaken. I'll be honest with you. It's been a while since I read the other books. I'm rereading them as I go under the pretense of it's been a couple years. So by all means, somebody in the comments shout out if I'm wrong.
Yeah, but I don't know. No, not really. I guess I was a little surprised they killed the Custodes, but
Yeah,
that's just from my own perception of the survivability of the Custodes.
yeah. That on that note, that it largely varies based off of who's writing a custodian. Like it's that obnoxious. Because in the heresy era, there are just parts like in the first heretic where they just drop like flies.
Well,
And there was
it's also like, when people were upset that like a bunch of Harlequins slashed away the throne.
yeah,
It's
sometimes
like, but that's fair. But like Harlequins are also like the Custodes level of bent of Elder. They're allowed to be on par.
yeah, I don't know how I feel about that one, honestly.
All Harlequin do is spend time in the webway owning their craft.
Yeah,
All Custodes do is spend time in the palace honing their craft, essentially,
yeah,
until they go out on strikes. They're about the same. They're That's why they had to do that. They're equivalently the same because the webway keeps them at their hyper prime, and
yeah,
Custodes are built that way.
indeed they are. For my part, I was surprised at the end of the book when Tor von Locke ascended the Demon Prince. Uh,
He's not. He's as much of a.
no, though to be clear, to my knowledge, this was hinted at but not stated factually. I'm just putting that out there.
He's as much of a demon as Car is.
I personally believe he ascended because all the tells were there. But again, just to be clear, there was no words where it factually states that he ascended to demonhood. Um, so it is up for interpretation. The brutal takedown of Princess Jessamine was a total shock to me. I really thought she was going to take Locke out at the last minute, but I was dead wrong, and honestly, I'm glad for it. Sometimes the good guy needs to fall for the story to have meaning. Not to mention her death plays into a future story for a later time, as was mentioned earlier. I mean, honestly, is this like the shock value of it all? Because I 100% thought Locke was going to bite it, and he didn't. In fact, he viciously murdered her.
He kind of did bite him. He was sick.
Yeah, no, he managed to
He
hit.
was good.
He managed to slap that coin right before he got hit by a cannon.
Well, I mean, like he was gonna die anyway.
Yeah,
The four just saved him.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. I mean, he's had so
they
many
would have.
rushes.
They would have just both went out.
I think it's, at the end of it for Locke, he kind of just finally understood. That's why, the dedication to the four dark gods was just repetitive and in different iterations each time. That way they all felt like they were getting equal share time, if you will. Um, Regardless, I was wrong. Didn't see it coming. I was happy it happened. Um, I was never happy to see, a character like Princess Jessamine died, but really, what did she have outside of any of the other characters in terms of like character development? I assume she had less because of the whole she was going to be killed at the end of the story. But, that's just writer perspective, I guess. Did you find the author's writing style engaging?
I mean, uh, I don't know. It's so like my personal, much like emotion. My personal definition of engaging is, can I put the book down? Yes, I could put this book down.
Mhm.
You know, like I can read a page or two and then be like, okay, well, I need to handle this really quick, so I can put the book down. There are few and far between books where I would be like, I am loath to put this down right now, and I in fact won't. Um, like I said, there are some of the few books that came around um, that I don't plan on rereading. But like, was it engaging? I mean, it wasn't boring.
Uh,
You know, I think it was better than one, but it was more concise than one. Haley has a focused book. I guess he technically has two, but Wolf Time is technically a focused book. Could I put that book down? Yeah, but that's just because Space Wolves aren't that engaging. At least without being active praise. So always. Um, but like I liked it more than book one.
yeah, I was a fan of how simple and clean the writing was. If it's easy to read and gain retention and understanding, it increases my love for a novel dramatically. Annie Clark did this, and with a bonus, there was a great deal of pluck added in for additional enjoyment. I would love to say thank you in person to Mr. Clark for the banter between Akalor and Vicalon. That stuff just made my day. And, anytime that you can read something and get that kind of enjoyment out of it, at least for me, it's a good day. So again, thank you, Mr. Clark. Did you learn anything from this book that you didn't know before?
Again, the problem is we're retreading old ground. Uh, we are a pair of people who have decades of experience in the lore. So like, what is there for us to learn other than like, well, one, we're already retreading old ground because we're still talking about stuff from like seventh to eighth edition,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like nothing is drastically changing in the current nature of 40K because of what happened in Gate of Bones.
yeah.
It's just not. Um, at most, you get more depth. You don't get, it's not new.
Yeah. I didn't notice much out of the way of additional information personally. I guess I received clarification on why I hate word bearers so much. They are a bunch of pretentious assholes and really are just a bunch of imbeciles and cowards. I mean, who knows as much as they know about the dark gods and still look at that shit and say, oh boy, sign me up for that.
Well, I mean, if you believe in the primal truth of the universe,
Stroking that one real hard.
I'm just saying, like,
Seriously though, these guys are at the top of my list of traitor Astartes legions I hate the most. They even beat the Night Lords, which frankly surprised me when I realized this.
well, I mean, that's not surprising when you like the Iron Warriors, given their Primarch is a whiny little baby bitch.
You call me a whiny little baby bitch.
I'm calling your Primarch a whiny little baby
Well,
bitch
he's not my Primarch. My Primarch Sanguinius. Thank you very
because
much.
I'm
But
gonna bitch slap my sister to death because I'm a whiny little baby bitch.
I mean, Perturabo is just the worst in all the right ways. But regardless of that fact, I I I I learned why I can't stand the word bearers. I got something out of this novel that I haven't in previous uh interpretations of their legion.
Bears on those for that.
Yeah, but like even reading like the first heretic and the follow-up, I don't remember the name of. They were put into a better context and light than I had ever seen with them and their legion, which was appreciated because, I wasn't particularly sold on them to begin with, but always having that thought exercise of trying to understand why they do what they do. And it boils down to, my supposed god smacked my wrist and killed my favorite toy, and now I'm going to turn to the dark gods of chaos. That's what it boils down to. And it brought clarification then, and this book brought clarification now. And it is greatly appreciated. Fuck the word bearers. Not sorry. Uh, give 40K. Sorry. Given 40K has an extensive RPG collection, what would you pull from this novel for a game?
So there are two. There's two facets to the answer to this question, at least for me. One, this entire book is an only war campaign.
Agreed.
It just is.
Agreed.
You could base an only war campaign out of this and have a fun time as long as your players haven't read this book.
Yeah.
Admittedly, as long as you gussy up the descriptions, you'd be fine anyways. Um, but also, there is a lot of good. stuff to grab out of here for the nature of a Black Crusade game in terms of like how NPCs might interact with the player characters in the sense of um, like these guys aren't here to stab you in the back, um, or they believe in chaos in a different way than you believe in chaos, but they're not here to like tell you you're wrong. They're just here to get across their point. Or you can also have like, well, this important character is here, and they're a big deal because the Avalon knows their name, so you got to do what they're saying because they're more important than you. And then maybe you go screw them over at some point later, but whatever. I think that there's a lot of grab here for Black Crusade and Only War. I can't say that there's much else here for necessarily anything else.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I don't have anything to add on my end. Only War was the one I chose for this as well. I with, perhaps a sprinkling of added, systems that correlate with Only War, like Dark Heresy, Black Crusade, all that. You could probably, squeeze some of it in and if you balanced everything out. But yeah, that's just splitting hairs at that point. So, yeah. What scene would you like to see animated from this novel?
the initial appearance, there are two. The initial appearance of the Custodes, like it starts out with the chick that's running through the city that the surroundings are like, well, we'll just use her as bait.
Hmm.
Like that whole bit would probably be pretty good. But also the corpse mountain climb. That would be tense as shit.
Yeah.
It would just be good. Other than that, kind of like whatever on the
Yeah.
rest of it.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of it be like, well, yeah, I'd like to hear Locke and Car talk, but that's a monologue. I don't need it to be a scene,
Yeah.
right? Um, but if I want to see something, then yeah, the Corpus Mountain Death Servitor climb thing, that'd be cool. And then the Custodian's first appearance, because that just it was coolly written. It'd be cool to see.
I would love to see the clash at the end of the novel between Locke's tank unit versus the Imperial Knights, led by Princess Jessamine. Seeing all that play out could make for some good visual spectacle, I think. And I mean like all the way to the end. So the bit where like he's on fire and he's doing his thing and like he just brutally murders her in her cockpit. Love it. I'd love to see all that animated. Um, what would you add or remove from the book if given the option?
Well, we talked about the connective tissue,
Yeah.
but it's important for me that we would have. It would have been nice to have a Rostov chapter even at the very end.
Yeah.
Be like, oh yeah, this is what he's up to.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't have to be connected. It just be like, oh yeah, this is what Rostov got up to.
I don't even know, he's just eating a corn dog. Like, it doesn't even matter, just something?
It's just like we get like a random mention at the end of book three. Like he's not important overall.
He shows up again in later not and books more consistently.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get that. That's fine. But like, it's always good to be like, yeah, this is what the Inquisition's up to.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, personally, I would have liked to see more character exploration of Princess Josephine.
Mm.
She struck me as too one-dimensional throughout the book, and it felt her death would have impacted more had I cared, such as it is, there wasn't a lot written about her, therefore she was a missed opportunity, especially since her family is featured very heavily in Iron Kingdom. Um,
Yeah, but it would have been a different book if it was just like, we're more focused on the scope of the Knights camp than we
yeah.
are.
I mean, personally, whenever a character is introduced, regardless of whether or not they will die at the end of the book, I feel it's a cop out not to put in the extra effort to humanize or characterize them. So I don't know why there wasn't as much attention other than the fact that she dies at the end, that there therefore wasn't. But I would have liked to, see a little bit more.
Should
I mean, she probably was, just being honest here, and from what little we received about her. She seemed very, very faith-bound, like, very oath-bound as well, and was very impetuous, which, knocks all the young imperial citizen, check marks in the box. Even so, I don't know, that's a personal thing.
That's fair.
Um,
Chapter of them women, you know, fine. Um,
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to add?
mm, while there was like it wasn't so we talked the last time about like how grimdark is.
Yeah, yeah.
Like this book, it felt less like grim on purpose. You know what I'm saying? Like book
Huh.
one was just like, oh, we're being purposely as darkly edgy as we can be.
Yeah.
Whereas like this one was like, oh, the situation's really bad. And like you know it's bad, you feel it's bad. And then there are these spikes of like, oh, and then the psoriasis got their hand.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck? Jesus.
It's like, here we go.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, or even Morgan's like, I like inside his own head's like, I don't want to be here for this, but I'm duty bound to be here.
Yeah.
That is more in line of like this is good in terms of like grim dark. Like whatever chaos was getting up to was
Yeah. That show was lame.
like because Yang's like
Yeah.
like, oh, I have a chain in my, I have a belly button piercing that's healed up now, and I like the way that they jingle on my body. It's like,
And here in a couple months, there's going to be a hand job of doom that I am not okay with.
I mean, she's fine to do it.
I,
She was just like,
for fear of being devoured by Tenebris,
like, I
sure.
guess I'll do it. Like,
Yeah, we will cover more of that
just
in future installments.
it's so stupid.
Yeah,
It's just like I said, like Yen's just kind of boring. She's like hyper into it,
yeah.
which is fine, but like, eh. Um,
So
and like the princess stuff, like that's we're just like, man, neither of them won basically.
yeah, shit was brutal. Like it was descriptive and brutal.
Cody is like getting his head literally misted.
Yeah,
Not even just like pulps.
yeah,
Like it was just blood. Like I think the phrase was like a smoky, bloody mist.
yeah. He got what was the Cruzius to the brain pan. Done. Went through Oramite. That was impressive. Uh,
Um, and then um, yeah, and like don't get me wrong, like Morgan's sadness about not giving his wife a child is not grim nor dark,
yeah,
but it's more. It's not as like it's not trying to be. It doesn't feel like it's trying to be dark. It's just like this is just how these people are. This is the shitty situation they're in. Whereas in book one, it felt like, man, they're really trying with this. Oh, look at that! It's the seventh dude to nobly sacrifice himself. How about that? Cool.
yeah.
I care about you, random guy number three who has a name, but I'm not gonna go find it because there's 500 characters in this book.
Yeah, man. So if you were to give it a grimdark score,
Um, I'd probably like it's not hyper, so I'd say like five, 5 to 6, somewhere in that range. More than book one, where because the moments where you felt like, oh, this is grimdark, there were a few.
they were there. Yeah.
They were there. Anytime the psoriasis get their hands on somebody, where they're like, we don't actually like you.
So yeah, if we're scaling from 1 to 10,
How many skulls out of 10? I'd say like 5 to 6 skulls.
yeah, I think I'll go with a 6.5.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It was darker than the last one, which it was real nice. I like that.
yeah.
All right. Got anything else to add before we tie this one off?
No, I hope Yang explodes at some point, but I doubt she will.
Yeah, she won't. Well, dear viewer, that's all the time we have for today. If you like what you heard, please like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell button. We appreciate it if you did. If you're following us on Spotify, just follow us. If you want to comment, that's great if you do. If not, we understand. But that'll be all from us at Concealing Historica Imperialis. This has been Decurio Iomhar,
And the Curio channel.
and we'll see you all in the next one.